Welcome to the Courage to Change with Karen podcast, the place where we get real about addiction recovery and celebrate the victories against struggle. I'm Karen Gardner, your navigator on this journey of healing, committed to uplifting families touched by addiction. Together, let's unravel the intricate dance of mind, body, and spirit with compassion, tenacity, and steadfast commitment. Hi, everybody. This is Karen. Welcome to the Courage to Change with Karen podcast. And I would like to just say how happy I am to be here with you today. I hope you guys are doing great. It's really hot here in Southern California. I'm in the desert in Palm Springs, California, and it's been one of the hottest summers I ever remember. And I've lived here for like 30 years, maybe a little more. So it's been rough. It was 123 and it was only June. So here we are in July, holding hot with the temperatures and a lot of thunderstorms, which make for humidity. So I hope where you're at, it is nice and beautiful and you're having a great day. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get started. I'm going to read from the Let Go Now book that I got from Karen Casey, who also is the author of Each Day a New Beginning. Really enjoyed this book and I like sharing it with you. I especially like the one I picked for today. It's on page 12 and it says, Detachment is making no one a project. It's my guess that since you have found this book of interest, you are able to relate to some of the struggles I have had over the years. One of these is dancing around the life of someone else rather than leading my own life. I am pleased to say I've made a lot of progress in this area, but for many decades, I didn't know there was another way to live. If someone else wasn't at the center of my life, I wasn't sure who I was. What a sad existence. What a sad recollection, too. Not letting someone else determine who we are or what we think or how we feel is revelatory. It's a revelation when first encountered as an idea. I was introduced to this notion in 1971 in a book titled Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? By John Powell. I immediately embraced the philosophy, even though I knew it was a truth I was not yet able to practice. Now, many years later, I realize that we are often given the seed of an idea long before it's able to sprout real growth in our own lives. The fortunate thing is that we are never the same after the idea first presents itself. I love this reading, and I'm hoping that it plants a seed and shifts your perception just a little bit. I relate to the dancing around others. What does it say here? Let me read it again. It says, dancing around the life of someone else rather than leading my own life. It reminds me of a framework I came up with several years ago when I started doing my outreach to family and friends of alcoholics and addicts. And the framework is that of a hula hoop. If you haven't heard my hula hoop analogy, well, you're in for a treat. And if you have heard of it, maybe you haven't heard of it for a little bit and it's time to regroup a little. So I believe firmly that everybody is born with their own hula hoop. So I want you to imagine your own hula hoop. Now, I've done this in different ways. I've done this as meditations where I have people imagine themselves as children. And you might want to do that. Maybe later tonight you want to sit down and close your eyes and imagine yourself as a little one. And who is in your hula hoop? Right? Or are you alone in your hula hoop? Does everybody else have their own hula hoops? And everybody is, pretty functional and doing pretty well. So, I've done this a lot of different ways, and it's a great way to create your own self-care, your own boundaries, your own identity. It's a great way to help with people that get lovesick, in love addictions, codependency with alcoholics and addicts. It's just a great overall concept. The best way to, the best way to explain it is when I was a kid, I had different issues in my life growing up. I loved my childhood, but there were some issues going on. And I remember I got a boyfriend, my first boyfriend, and man, I jumped out of my hula hoop and I jumped into his. I wanted to be him. I wanted to live at his house. I wanted his mom as my mom. We did everything together. Everything. I was stuck to him like glue. I did anything I could do to make him happy. I did things I normally wouldn't have done. I was completely enthralled with this guy. And then in our senior year, I was a junior, he was a senior. And we had gone out, my entire high school. And here I'm going in my senior year. I don't know if I thought we were going to leave high school and get married. Who knows? I can't imagine. But I was in love, or so I thought. And then he ended up taking off with a Swedish exchange student. And I was heartbroken. And I realized, I was alone. I had this empty hula hoop, right? I had jumped out of mine. I left it abandoned. All my friends went on to do fun things and create new friendships, and I was kind of odd man out. I was just there. And then I met another guy, did the same thing. Met another guy, did the same thing. Met another guy, did the same thing. This one guy I got together with, God, I just thought I loved him so much. And I think I was addicted to him. Is what it was. And I wanted to live at his house with him. I wanted to be him again. And, I ended up cleaning his house. He was older than me. I was young. And I went to his house and I just stepped into the role of June Cleaver. I did his laundry. I cleaned his house. I took care of him. I did his grocery shopping. I helped him stack wood. I took care of his kid, when he got her every other weekend or something. I was way too young for all this. And anyway, it was just a bad relationship. And he was a narcissist. And back then we didn't have the term narcissist. He was just an asshole. He was in a band and he had a ton of money. His parents were loaded. He had his own business, several different stores in this business. Anyway, I was just absolutely enthralled with him. And he, would break up with me and I'd be devastated. And once again, I had no hula hoop to go back to. And it would be miserable. I'd be heartsick. I mean, this went on and on. And I finally, started figuring out that if I don't, this is how I figured it out. Because once I jumped into their hula hoop, they ended up resenting me for being in their hula hoop. There's just, too many people in this hula hoop, get out, go home, take a shower, take a nap, give me a break, right? Give me some room. And I was heartbroken. I thought I'd done something wrong. And I finally had to leave that relationship. It was going to kill me. And, it wasn't abusive physically, but it was going to kill me. I was not well. My mental health was destroyed. And I kept breaking up with him and going back and breaking up and going back. And he'd break up with me and we'd get back together. And, every time we got back together, it was like stronger usage. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but it was just more severe every time, the getting back together and the breaking up. And finally, one day I realized, I was going to die. Like, this is it. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I thought, this is crazy, right? I deserve more than this. But I was terrified because I knew if I broke up with him, I'd just go back. So I did what any sane person would do. I put all my stuff in storage, bought a plane ticket to the Caribbean, one-way plane ticket to the Caribbean, and I moved. I fell in love with him in Washington State is where we lived, and I went to the farthest place away from Washington State while still being in the country, which was the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I lived there for several years. And that's the only way I could promise myself, I wouldn't get back. Even then, he called me while I was down there after I'd been there a year. I guess he figured out I was really doing this. And he was going to come down and get me, and I was all excited, and he never did. That was the last time I let someone do that to me. And sorry, that's my little chihuahua sitting on my lap. So, I learned about self-care. I learned that I was going to have to take care of my own hula hoop. So I always had a hula hoop to go back to. And I had to let people have their own hula hoops. It just didn't work out any other way. Problem is, then later in life, I had a child, and I thought she was born into my hula hoop. She was my world, right? And for a time there, her father was too. And there we were, cramped in this one hula hoop. And what happened? She couldn't wait to get out of the hula hoop at a very young age, just like, get away from me. And he ended up getting out of the hula hoop, or I kicked him out of the hula hoop, one or the other. I mean, it was just tragic, that this had to happen, because I didn't know how to do any kind of healthy relationship at all. And, I had to realize that my daughter had her own hula hoop, which meant she had her own beliefs, her own rules, her regulations, her mental health. Everything was her own. She had her own journey. And I went through a terrible time once again with control, letting go of control and detaching, which is exactly what we're talking about. Detaching. She was no longer my project. I had to make me my project. And I didn't know how. And I know a lot of you didn't know how. Maybe you still don't, and that's why you're here. But I know action is the most important thing. And for you, the action today might have been just coming and turning on this podcast. That counts. It counts because you're seeking, right? I mean, who was it, Gandhi, that said that you find God or spirit in the seeking, right? When you're looking for him, not when you find him. And you're seeking a better way. Now, a lot of people reach out to me, and that's always allowed. If you didn't know that, you can email me at Karen@KarenGardenier.com, or you can message me on your favorite platform that I'm on, that you listen to me on, and I will answer you. And I've had a couple people this week that have reached out to me that have been listening for some time and have finally got to a point where they need to do something. And so I gave them some action, and it's not difficult action. But it's action. And it's not action about the other person. It's an action for you. And so I some people contact me. And I remember this one man contacted me. And he was like right out of his mind when we talked. It had gotten bad. And I related because I was there a couple times in my life. And once in relationships and once with a child and then back to relationships. I mean, it's just back and forth, I think I finally have out of the back and forth, but I've had to learn my lesson. And I was talking to him, and he sounded nuts. So I said to him, have you eaten anything? And he was kind of floored. Like, here we are in this huge situation with someone's life at risk, and you're asking me if I ate, And I said to him, I'm not kidding. When did you eat last? When have you slept? And as you know, when you love someone who's in crisis, everything is about that. Everything's about that. And even while you're going to work or you're doing something else, you're in the grocery store, you're at a birthday party, all you can think of is that. It's always in the back of your head. You're always checking your phone. You're anxious to get home because you need to be there just in case. And it's exhausting. And, sometimes that is the first move. And the couple people that reached out to me this last week, we started with the basics. And then I said, you need something to do. I said, I want you to do the 12 steps with me. Let's do that. That's going to keep you busy. And I had just finished this, I told you about it last week, was this Mastering the 12 Steps, which is just fantastic. And it gives you something to do immediately. So I had them start with that. So they immediately that night had something to do. and start getting them a routine. And I kept saying, have you gone to Al-Anon yet? Have you gone to Nar-Anon, Al-Anon? And no, you know how that is. It's not for us. These people are different. I'm different. But they went. Both of them didn't know each other, two different situations. And I got messages, one about 3 or 4 days ago and one yesterday. And they said, I went to my first meeting and I loved it, right? I loved it. I felt so good when I left. I'm just so happy, and I'm getting so much out of these steps that I'm doing with you. And I'm taking care. I'm going to yoga right now. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I said, great. I said, it's really the most loving thing you can do for that other person. It really is. It leaves them in their hula hoop to figure out what they're going to do. They need to face their own consequences. They need to deal with their own situation. They have a journey of their own. Doesn't mean they don't love you. It means that they need to figure it out. And you need to focus on yourself. You need to be in your hula hoop. And it also means that hula hoop idea, it also means you get to decide who's in your hula hoop. If you got people in your hula hoop right now that don't belong there, get them out, right? Or let them weed themselves out. They're probably trying to get out, but you're still connected. You're still somehow in there. Let people go that aren't supposed to be in your hula hoop. And if somebody gets in your hula hoop and you don't want them there, get them out. If you have a raging alcoholic coming home at night and they're waking up the household and they're scaring the kids and breaking things, this happens, tell them to get out, or just call the police, have them come get him out of there. Or you leave and get out, right? Get yourself an Uber, have a plan B. The very first podcast I did was on plan B, the power of plan B, right? So your plan B, can be a part of your hula hoop. It can just decide who gets in, who gets out, your community, your work, your health, your loved ones, whatever it is you want in your hula hoop. Hobbies, right? But don't jump out of yours and get in someone else's. During this boot camp where I presented this framework of the hula hoop. I did it about 5 years ago, and I remember asking everyone to close their eyes. And after I gave them the description that I just gave you, I said, everyone close your eyes and tell me, what do you see in your hula hoop? Look around. What do you see going on there? And I had a lot of interesting answers. People opened their eyes, and one woman said, I was alone. And I hadn't been there a long, long time. And another woman said, kind of the same thing. But this one gentleman said, who was in my hula hoop? My 4 kids, my mother, my father-in-law, my wife. I mean, he was getting squeezed out of his hula hoop. He needed to he needed to weed it out. And then one woman just started crying when I asked her, and she said, I couldn't find mine. And I don't want that to happen to any of you, right? So I helped her find her hula hoop and then decorate it. And she started her journey, and that's what this is. This is a journey. It's all for the experience. And I want you to have my experience so you don't have to go on this weird route of pain and suffering that I did. So I want to thank you again. I'd love to hear from you all. Please like, subscribe, share the podcast. I'm trying to grow it to reach as many people as possible. And please check out the show notes. I'm still kicked off Facebook, so our Courage to Change with Karen private Facebook group is still not up and running. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that account back. But you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the rest. And I'm here for you. Send me a message if you need any help. If you want someone's shoulder to cry on, check out the show notes here, which is the description of the show. Check out the link for that doing the steps with me, mastering the 12 steps, and make sure you're on my email list so you know what's going on in this world of moving forward. I'm glad you're all on this path with me. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.